California at Berkeley in 1959 and an MS in Semiconductor Materials Science and Engineering from Syracuse University in 1962. From 1984 to 2008, Mr. Kvamme was a general partner and most recently partner emeritus of Kleiner, Perkins, Caulfield & Byers, a venture capital firm. Mr. Kvamme is currently a director of Power Integrations, Inc., Harmonic, Inc., as well as 2 private companies. In 1967, Mr. Kvamme was one of the original members of the team to establish National Semiconductor Headquarters in Silicon Valley. In 1982, he became Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Apple Computer. While at Apple, he was instrumental in deciding to air the 1984 advertisement introducing the Macintosh computer. To the corporate world, he has served on the boards of Biotechnology, Gemfire, Harmonic, National Semiconductor, Photon Dynamics, Power Integrations, and Silicon Genesis. In the public realm, Mr. Kvamme is best known for his appointment by President George W. Bush to be co-chairman of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology in 2001. Mr. Kvamme previously served as chairman of Advocacy Group, Empower America. He served on the board of the National Venture Capital Association in 1998. He served as chairman of the California State Electronic Commerce Advisory Council for Governor Pete Wilson's administration. His topic tonight, the politics of energy and environment and the economy. Let's give a warm Silicon Valley welcome to Floyd Kvamme.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight. And I wish Dave and Larry all the best in their efforts. For those of you that also want to write even more checks, I am sponsoring or a host of an event with the National Republican Congressional Committee this next Monday. John Boehner will be out with us, and that'll be out in Palo Alto. You can see me later if you're interested in that. It's expensive, by the way. I thought I'd start with a little personal background, although Richard has mentioned some of this about who I am and what my classes are. I'm a native San Franciscan, born to God-loving Norwegian immigrant parents. I'm one of those first in the family to go to college people. In my case, as has been mentioned, electrical engineering at Berkeley and semiconductors at Syracuse. As a boy, a Sunday afternoon drive to pick cherries at or near C.J. Olson's in Sunnyvale was a real treat. I don't know how many of you remember that. To afford college, my brother and I delivered newspapers. I started at age 9. At its peak, our routes involved delivering 600 copies of the San Francisco Examiner each morning. The activity provided tremendous lessons in business, cash flow, sales, customer service. We were businessmen. More on that later and why that's important. America and this valley have been incredibly good to me. I started here in 1963 and had a fascinating ride. I'm an optimist and believe that optimism is what drives this valley. I'm a Republican because as I see it, we have a two-party system. More of my principles fit the Republican side than the other side. Does that mean I agree with everything the Republican Party stands for? No. But I believe you really only have 2 choices. Being an independent sounds good, but in Washington, an R or a D is the speaker, an R or a D is the majority leader, an R or a D sit in the White House, and they set the agenda. Sure, there have been many times in the last 8 years I would have loved to have changed that, but that's not the way it works. Finally, lest some of my remarks I make later in this presentation be misinterpreted, I have a deep respect for the institutions of the United States, and particularly after spending time in Washington. A deep respect for the office of the presidency. We have a very good system of government. It may not always be as responsive as we'd like, but it is a good system. Further, there are many smart, dedicated people, like these guys, Larry and Dave, who want to do the right thing. We may not always like the policies they are tasked to implement, but that's why we have elections, and that's why elections matter. Ours is a self-correcting system, which is one of the things that makes us great. I came of age between Korea and Vietnam, and as a result never served in the military. So when asked to commit to government service, I gladly accepted, not really having any idea how fascinating it would be to be in Washington for these last 8 years. I wasn't living there, by the way. I went about once a month. I spent time in Washington. My official title in Washington was co-chair of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. Let me explain where that fits in. In the White House, there are many agencies, all of which formally report to the Chief of Staff. Among them is the Office of Science and Technology Policy, with a permanent staff of about 40, plus up to 20 detailees from other departments as legislation pertaining to their area of interest comes up or is anticipated. The director of that office also holds the title of Science Advisor to the President. That director has historically been a physicist because the advisor position dates back to the end of World War II, when nuclear weapons were first of concern. The director is also the other co-chair of PCAST. Over the years, PCAST has consisted or been composed of between 15, and 30 leaders of the science and technology community, university presidents, members of the national academies, technology industrialists, etc. In our PCAST, for continuity purposes, we had 2 members who were holdovers from the Clinton administration, one who had served in the George H.W. Bush administration, and one who had served in the Reagan administration. These experienced members were very helpful in the early days as they provided continuity to the process. Somewhat to my dismay, the Obama administration decided not to have any holdovers. Over the 8 years, we produced 18 reports on subjects ranging from manufacturing technology to education, to nanotechnology and information technology, to personalized medicine, and of course energy, the topic of tonight's discussions. I have 2 goals tonight: to describe our recommendations that America become energy secure, not necessarily energy independent, but secure, with adequate energy supplies from competitive sources, followed by a description of the steps the administration and the Congress took to implement those recommendations, of course along with ideas from others. These actions have time frames reaching out to 2022. Second, to comment on what has happened since the end of our administration that is having an impact on energy needs of the country, its environmental issues, and the economy. Since my topic is rooted in the activities in Washington, politics stand front and center. After all, politicians set the agenda, they establish the budget, and make the rules concerning how we are to deal with energy and the many areas that touch on energy. Now, I'm not going to defend the fact that Washington is so involved. 100 years ago, I suspect Washington had absolutely nothing to do with energy policy. But the nation gets into a crisis, such as the energy crisis of the 1970s, and soon we have an energy department. And the next thing you know, Washington becomes the go-to place for energy policy. Maybe looking to Washington every time we have a new problem isn't such a good idea. They just may have a solution. But I digress. We're handing out some charts. Have we done that yet? We haven't done that yet. Why don't we get started? I have a one-pager that it's impossible to go through. I can go through without giving you a little bit of help. But there's a spaghetti chart, or what we call the spaghetti chart, that you'll be given. This chart contains 2005 data. The